Star Trek was the first time they put a lie to the television network belief that the audience are a bunch of goofs.
Fourth grade education.
Yes. The audience is bright. The audience is actually hungry for some meat.
Oh, definitely.
And
definitely.
The people that have given it to them have had considerable success. I had hoped when I wrote it and wrote the first of it and produced it that now and then someone would come up to me and say, "Hey, I saw your program and I liked it," but to create a cult phenomenon, of course, you've got to be surprised. Nobody in his right mind can sit down at a typewriter and say, "Well, let's see, what shall I do today? I think I'll create a phenomenon." You don't do it. My father, unfortunately, passed away before it hit its large success, but he was so upset when he saw Star Trek, he went around and apologized to all the neighbors.
What?
He said, "Well, I know the boy is up to something crazy, but he'll come back and write a good Western."
Did you have any problems with the cast, or was it the typical, we're all a big happy family?
We had the usual problems that every family has. We had our squabbles and our upsets and all of that. But the thing that did turn us into a family was the fact that Desilu and Paramount didn't really understand or like Star Trek. The network, NBC, didn't particularly like it. And it kind of made us mad. So we said to ourselves, let's show the SOBs. And so we kind of drew together. Yeah. And we're all good friends today.
Now, Gene Roddenberry, you created Star Trek, the whole concept, the ideas. You wrote many of the actual
of the early
shows.
episodes.
Then you began to do something which I admired very much as well, and that was you didn't go out and grab any screenwriter or budding young author you could find, but you went and got some pretty good science fiction names already established to do some of the plots for you.
Yes, we did. We had Theodore Sturgeon, Harlan Ellison.
Yeah.
Harlan, of course, as well. Theodore Sturgeon, I guess, is the most anthologized writer in the English language. And Dick Matheson, who wrote The Incredible Shrinking Man and half a dozen other fine shows. Robert Bloch. Isaac Asimov never wrote for us because he won't fly. He doesn't trust these things with wings.
I've heard
although he writes about that.
Yeah. Prior to Star Trek, prior to this germ happening in your brain, it sounds like you're terminally ill. It's a germ of an idea. Let's add it there. You had been very busy in the television industry. I know that you wrote several Naked City episodes.
Cam, I was a freelance writer and then later producer. I was really not a science fiction writer. I wrote Star Trek. I started Star Trek because I was looking around, one, for something that I might do better and make some little name for myself. Everyone would like to do that. And it seemed to me that the science fiction things I'd seen so far on television just didn't follow the rules of good drama. They weren't about people. They didn't properly motivate and that sort of thing. And secondly, I was getting awfully tired of television censorship. And
really?
Yes. And in the United States, and I think to some extent here, but very much down there, television in those days was purely a commercial medium to sell products, and they did not want to rock anybody's boat, to the point that shows were unthinking shows. I remembered that Gulliver's Travels, and Jonathan Swift started writing. He wanted to make some comments on man and society and religion and all of that. So rather than get his head chopped off for doing it, why he put it on this strange place with the little people and so on.
Yeah.
I said put mine on Far Off Planets. Then I could talk about sex, politics, religions, government, and
didn't matter. It wasn't here.
And yes, and they'd shrug their shoulders and say, "Well, that's happening to a bunch of polka-dotted people out there."
Was it really that heavy-handed? I mean, where did the censorship come from? The sponsors themselves who paid for it?
No, the television networks took over the job of censorship from the sponsors.
Well, Naked City used to break some new ground occasionally. Maybe those were the episodes that you wrote.
All thoughtful programs are done by thoughtful producers or writers. We'll have a few, but you get them by at great effort, great contest. I remember back when there were no blacks on television in America. Then the television networks, really, the reason they came on was because they discovered they were a fairly sizable segment of the buying public. So I wrote a script. Then when they put them in, though, you couldn't have a black unless he was a brain surgeon or a psychiatrist or something like that.
They went too far the other way.
I wrote a story about a prejudiced black. They refused to put it on the air. Because every prejudice is something I wanted to say of all colors and races, unfortunately. I went and got the help of NAACP and CORE, and we finally forced it on the air. But censorship will strike from anywhere. Censorship is... I think they do not teach in school how deadly a thing censorship is, because if we have censorship, we keep our artists from doing what they do. And what artists do is they go around looking at all this complexity around us, and they try to give us options, try to create a few patterns and say, here's what I think it is. Or another one says, no, here's what I think it is. And art is vital to civilization. It's not a luxury. We need these people in all fields out saying, hey, here's a pattern that you may have not had time to put together.
Are you an optimist?
Oh, yes. I think the human creature is a remarkable animal. I think we've got a lot of bumps ahead, but I think that we are really something. When we grow up, wow.
How long are we? How far do we have to go? Are we in adolescence now? Puberty? Kids?
I think adolescence is how I'd characterize it. I think the human race has always progressed on a order of sort of 3 steps forward and 2 back, and that's kind of exciting. And I think that's sort of the plan. I think it's not planned that we go ahead too fast. We don't want to take our intolerances out to the stars, so we may get a little slowing down for a while. And I suggested to a speech to NASA last year that probably there's some sort of natural law, that you can only go as far into outer space as you also at the same time able to go into inner space and understand yourself.
Do you call yourself a futurist, Gene?
I suppose. I think principally I'm an artist. I hope to merit the titles philosopher, but I don't think you give that to yourself. I think other people give it to you, very often posthumously.